This is Gary Schnitkey, and today we're going to talk about the types of leasing arrangements that can be used between the farmer and a landowner. There are three basic types: share rent leases, which then can be divided further into standard and with modification; cash rent leases, which include fixed and variable; and custom farming arrangements. Share rent occur when a farmer and landowner share in the revenues and direct costs associated with that farming operation. In most areas of Illinois and across much of the Midwest, the typical relationship is 50-50. The farmer gets 50% of the revenue and shares 50% of the cost, and the landowner gets 50-50. That can vary depending on the productivity of the farmland, and with lower productivity, we see different splits than a 50-50. A characteristic of a share rent arrangement is that it adjusts quickly to economic conditions. If we have price changes or yield changes, those payments from those relationships change on those as those items change. Another characteristic is that the landowner does not have a certain payment. The rent from that farmland will vary based on what revenue is, and that will not be known until all the year is over. This is the most hands-on relationship between the farmer and landowner. That landowner and farmer will have to communicate and make decisions throughout the year. A typical with modification share rent is that there's a supplemental rent added to the share lease. The landowner receives from the farmer an additional payment, which is often in the $20 to $30 per acre range in northern and central Illinois. A cash rent arrangement generally starts out with a fixed cash rent, and that fixed cash rent is known and it's negotiated before any activities start on that farm. And the farmer and landowner know that payment. It's fixed payment, and therefore it's known at the beginning of the year. The characteristics of the fixed cash rent is that the rent does not adjust quickly to differences as things change. If we have increasing prices and rents need to adjust up, or vice versa, need to adjust down, that is not reflected in that fixed cash rent. Another characteristic is that it's difficult in adjusting that rent, again, particularly when economic situations change, and there has to be a lot of communication between the farmer and landowner at that point in time. From a hands-on standpoint, this is very much less hands-on than the share rent arrangement. A variable cash rent sort of moves away from the fixed cash rent and more towards a share rent. Typically what you see in these arrangements is that there's a fixed payment that's known at the beginning, and that would be typically much lower than on the fixed cash rent, but there can be an additional payment which is usually based on a percent of revenue. If revenue is high, the landowner receives more. The characteristics of this arrangement is that it does more quickly adjust to the current situation as prices and yields change. So does the rent. There's generally a difficulty in setting the terms of this variable cash rent at the beginning. You not only have to agree on a fixed cash rent, but you have to agree on a base rent and the percentages of revenue that will be shared, along with other details of that lease. This is more hands-on than, say, a fixed cash rent. Custom farming is when the landowner pays for all the field operation. That could be a fixed amount for each field operation, or it may be a fixed amount for the entire set of field operation. Then the landowner makes all the decisions, buys all the seed, makes all the herbicide decisions, makes all the fertility decisions, and then bears all the risk. So those are the lease arrangements that can be used to control land between the farmer and landowner. As you continue down this journey, you're going to get more information about each one of those arrangements.